Okay, in this example, we're going to see another extrusion, but this one has kind of two extrusions that I'm going to combine into one. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that I have the correct O-snaps turned on. Once again, you can pause the video, and these are the most common ones that I'm going to have turned on. Also, you should see that my ribbon is different because the last video I did, I came from a 2D drawing to the 3D. You still have the same 2D commands listed here underneath the Draw and Modify section, but I'm going to key them in just to make things a little bit easier. Okay, so starting with a circle that has a radius of 20, remember the shortcut is C, enter. Select your location and where you want your circle to be, so I'm just going to click here. And then type in 20 for your radius. So 20 followed by the enter button. Okay, now I have a diameter that I want to put on the inside of that, and the diameter is 20. So I'm going to type C, enter. I'm going to place that center of my circle that I'm creating now in the center of my previous circle. So I'm just going to go and touch the edge, and I'm going to come down to where that plus is, left click, and now it's asking me for a radius because you can see that right by my cursor. Just going to go down to the command line and select diameter, and I'll type in 20. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is draw a line. So L, enter. I'm going to go to the center of here, and remember, if that center is not showing up, touch the edge of one of your circles. Left click on that plus. You want to make sure that you got a line going straight out this direction. So I'm going to hit the function key 8, F8 to turn my ortho on. And remember that the icon down here should turn blue. I'm going to aim it here to the right, and I'm going to type in 80, enter. I'll hit the escape button after I do that. Next, I'm going to use the offset command. And remember, the shortcut for offset is O, enter. I need to give it a distance because that's always the first thing that offset asks for. And you can see by the drawing that the thickness of this is going to be 15, but I need to cut that number in half. So I'm just going to type in 15 divided by 2, enter. Now I'm going to select the object that I want to offset, so I'm going to select this line, and then I'll click above it. So one left click here. I'm going to come back down and click that exact same line, and then I'll click below it, followed by the escape button. Now I'm just going to create a line and connect those endpoints. So L, enter. Select this endpoint, and then go up and select this endpoint. Hit the escape button. Okay, now we don't need that middle line anymore, so I'm just going to go ahead and erase it. So select it and hit the delete button on your keyboard. Next thing I'm going to do is trim these lines that are extending into here. So the shortcut for trim is TR, enter. And this is something new that if you're using the 2021 version, it bypasses the cutting edges for you. So I can just immediately start trimming by clicking here, and here, here, and here. And then I'll trim in between here. Now, if you have any version before this one, you're going to have to hit the enter button right after you type in TR, enter, and then followed by another enter. And that'll get you to trim just like I did. Okay, so I'm just going to move this down a little bit. And next, I'm going to go ahead and create my shape that is located here. But first, I need to locate that circle that has a radius of 20. And you can see that it's located from this line going up a distance of 32. And the center of that radius should be 20 over this direction. So I'm going to create a circle. So C, enter. Hold down the shift button and do a right click. I want you to come and select from, click on this endpoint. You're going to have to type in the @ symbol, -20, comma, 32. Enter. And now you're going to see the location of that circle should be in the right point. I just need to give it the radius. So I'm going to type in 20, enter. I'm going to create a circle that has a diameter of 20 right on the inside of this one. So C, enter. Touch the edge of my circle. Come back and click on this center. Go down on your command line. Select diameter. Type in 20, followed by the enter button. Okay, now I need to go ahead and put the circle that has a radius here. So I'm going to go C, enter. And one of the options that I'm going to use is going to be the tangent radius option. So down on my command line, I'm going to select the one that says TTR tan radius. I'm going to select on this circle, so click here. And then I'm going to select on this circle, so click here. And then I need to give it the radius, which is 27.29. Enter. I'm going to use the extend button this time, or the extend command. So EX, enter. And just like the trim option in the 2021 version, they bypassed the boundary edge. So I'm just going to select this line here. Make sure that you click along the top edge of this line to get it to extend up to that circle. Followed by the escape button. I'll go back and trim. So TR, enter. Now I'm going to start trimming off these circles. So I'm going to trim here. And then here. Followed by here. And then on my circle on this big one on the outside, I'm just going to select here. Followed by the escape button. Now I have everything that I need to complete my 3D shape, except I need to create them with polylines. So remember that one of the rules of creating solids is that these lines have to be polylines. I'm going to turn these into one rather quickly with the boundary command. And the shortcut for boundary is BO, enter. It's going to ask you to pick what point, so I'm going to select this icon here. And then I'm just going to pick right on the inside of here. I'll hit the enter button. And you can see on my command line it says 2 polylines were created. It actually created a polyline on my outside and it created another one around my circle. I'm going to do that command again for the inside of this one. So BO, enter. Pick points. Select right in the inside of this one. Hit the enter button. And now you should have that same thing on the bottom on your command line that said it created 2 polylines. Just going to pan down a little bit. Now what I want you to do is select this object here, this object, this circle, and this circle. And I want to copy these up. So with them selected, I'm just going to type CO, and that's the shortcut for copy, enter. Now I need to give it a base point, so I'm just going to click here and come up and click, followed by the escape button. Next thing I'm going to do is zoom out a little bit. And these shapes here at the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and erase. So I'm just going to do one click here and go across, and one click here and hit the delete button. Okay, I'm going to put this in a 3D isometric view. So I'm going to select this lower left corner of my view cube. I'm going to use the extrude command, and remember the shortcut for it is EXT, followed by the enter, or you can select this icon. And I'm going to select this object here and this circle, hit the enter button. I'm going to come up in the upward direction and I'm going to type in 50, enter. I'll go back to the extrude command, and I'm going to select this object here and here, followed by the enter button. I'm going to aim in the up direction, and I'm going to type in 15, enter. Next, I'm going to click on this view cube where it says top. And you can see that if yours rotated correctly, but if yours is rotated on this kind of angle, if you come over to your view cube, there's going to be some little arrows along the top up here. So I'm just going to select this arrow here just to rotate my view to where it looks like that. Underneath where it says 2D wireframe here underneath my visual style options or controls, I want you to select here, and then select the one that says shades of gray. Now what I'm going to do, oh, I'm sorry, I meant to select shades of gray. Come down one more, shades of gray. The next thing I need to do is go ahead and subtract out these circles out of my objects. So I will use the subtract command. So I'll select it here. And with the subtract command, you want to select the object you want to keep first. So I'm going to select this big object here, followed by enter. And then I need to enclose this object here in the middle. So you can see that it is highlighted. If you are having trouble selecting that, another option that you can do is one simple click to the outside here and one left click here. Once you have that selected, hit the enter button and you will indeed see that that will subtract from your solid. I'm going to do that again. Go to the subtract. Select the object I want to keep, followed by enter. And this time, instead of putting a window around it, I'm just going to select it here. So once you have that selected, hit the enter button. Next, I want to take a look and see how this object looks along this side. So I'm going to select this lower right of my view cube. And you can see that these are two separate solids. The next command I'm going to use is going to be the union command. So I'm going to select this icon here. And it really doesn't matter which order you select these in. I can select this object and this one, followed by the enter button. You will see that that line will go away. And now when you select this object, it's all one object. Next, I want to go ahead and put a chamfer along this edge. So I'm going to click where it says solid. So click on the solid tab. And then where it says fillet edge, I want you to select the drop down here and select chamfered edge. Underneath where it says distance on your command line, select that. I want you to type in the number 50, enter. And for my other number, I'm going to type in 25, enter. Now I'm going to select the edge that I want to chamfer, so I'm going to select here. And you can see that my shape came out the wrong direction. So I'm going to go back to the word distance, and I'm going to reverse the order in which I had those in. I'm going to type in 25 here, enter. And then I'm going to type in 50, enter. Once I have that correct, and it's looking like the way I want it, I'm just going to hit the enter button, and this is just a preview, and then you have to hit the enter button again to accept it. Alright, so one of the next things I want to do, I want to get this oriented the right direction. You can see on my view cube that the front view is facing here, where if I leave it the way it is, it's kind of looking at it sideways. So without anything selected, and I'm not in any command, I'm going to select my view cube. Underneath my gizmos, I'm going to select the rotate gizmo option. I'm going to click on this red axis. And if I pull going straight up, I want you to do a left click and hit the escape button twice. Okay, so everything is rotated and looking the way I want it. So if I click on where it says front, you will see that this will rotate around to the correct front view. Next thing I want to do is go ahead and put my title block in. So I'm going to switch to layout 1 by selecting here along the bottom where it says layout 1. I'm going to delete this viewport. So select it and hit the delete button. Let's go ahead and insert in our title block. So I enter. And since we already inserted our title block from example 1, it's going to be underneath our library here, underneath recent, or it's underneath the libraries. I want you to select and do a right click on this one. Well, actually, before I do that, I want you to make sure you go at the bottom here and uncheck where it says insertion point. Now come back to this option, do a right click and choose insert. And it should come up with your standard stuff that you have to fill in your title block with. Go ahead and select OK. I want you to select where it says layout at the top, so select the layout tab. Go over to where it says page setup. And just like how we did in example 1, we're going to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to select modify. Underneath where it says printer, select the drop down, DWG to PDF. Where it says page size, click the drop down, ANSI full bleed B 17 by 11 inches. Underneath where it says plot area, choose extents, and then put a check in the center of the plot box. Select OK, and close. Next, I need to bring in my model. So I'm going to click on where it says base. From model space, select that. Just going to move my cursor here. And this is going to be my front view, so I'm just going to simply left click here. Hit the enter button. Then I'm going to move my cursor here. And then click here, and then one click here, followed by the enter button. Next, I'm going to change this isometric view to get rid of the hidden line, so I'm just going to double click whenever this rectangle appears. So when I have this view selected, double click. Underneath where it says hidden line, select the drop down and go to visible lines, followed by the escape button. Now we're ready to put dimensions on this. So I'm going to click on where it says annotate. Underneath this drop down where it says use current. And now I don't have my dimension layer here. And yours may be there. If you have dimension layer there, I want you to go ahead and select it. If you don't, I want you to type in DC, that stands for Design Center. Hit the enter button. Then your Design Center will appear. Underneath here, you can see that I have all of my layers that's going to show up. You can simply navigate to that. Just go to wherever you keep your title block. I'm going to select all of these. Then I'm going to right click on one of the blue areas and select the words Add Layers. I'll close my Design Center. And now underneath this drop down, I should get the word Dimensions. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put dimensions on this. And I'll start with my radius dimensions first. But before I do that, let's go ahead and set up our dimension style. You can select this little down arrow here or type in D-Enter. Go to this dialog box, go to Modify. I'm just going to go to where it says Primary Units. select precision, and go all the way up to where it says 0. OK. And close. So I'm just going to zoom in just to this one little view here. So I'm going to look at my front view. Now I'll go ahead and start putting some dimensions on. So instead of going up here and selecting these, I'm going to show you how to type them in. I want to make a linear dimension, so D, L, I, enter. I'm going to select this center here. And then I'm going to select that endpoint here, bring it down, left click. Let's go ahead and put another dimension on this one. So another linear, D, L, I, enter. I'm going to select this endpoint here to that center, drag it out here to the right, and a left click. Now I'm kind of getting a little space here. I'm just going to go ahead and close my insert box here by selecting this little X here. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put my dimension, that's 15. So DLI, enter. And make sure that you are selecting those endpoints. And I'll click here. If you're selecting the nodes, sometimes you're going to get those little yellow boxes that's going to appear. Okay, next thing I need to do is go ahead and put my radius dimensions. So D, R, A, enter. And I'm going to select this big radius here on the outside. So once you select that radius, or that arc, go ahead and select the location for it and left click. Since I have a couple of more radius, or radii, I'm just going to hit the enter button. That'll take me back to the previous command. Then I'm going to select that arc. Now if I go past the center of it, it kind of does some weird things, so I'm just going to keep it right underneath that center. I'm going to hit the enter button again on my keyboard, and then I'm going to select that arc. Next, I want to go ahead and put some diameter line dimensions on this, so I'm going to go DDI for diameter. Then I will select this circle here, and then I'll find the location to place it and left click. Hit the enter button or type in DDI again, select that circle, find a location to place it. Let's go ahead and do the dimensions over here. So DLI, enter. Select this endpoint, that endpoint, come above and place it. DLI, enter. Then I'm going to select this endpoint. And once again, make sure that you're getting the endpoint symbol to come up and left click along that. And I'll come and place the dimension. Along here on this top view, I'm going to place another DLI, enter. I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. Since this line is a continuous line, after I type in DLI, enter, I will follow that with another enter. And now I'm just going to select this line and come straight down. Just going to hit the enter button, and I'll select this endpoint and that endpoint and place my dimension here. The next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and put in my center lines. So before I do that, I'm going to type in center layer, one word. And then after you hit the enter button, it's going to ask you what layer you want to use. I'm going to type in the word center and hit the enter button. I will go ahead and put in all of my center marks now, so my center lines first. So I'm going to select center line here. We'll select that line and that line. just going to hit the enter button, select this line, the enter button again. I'm going to select this line, enter button, and then I'm going to select this bottom line here and that line there. Now I'm ready to put in my center marks, so hit the escape button and then go to center marks. I'm going to select this big circle here and the big arc here, followed by the escape. Now I need to go ahead and fill in my title block, so ATE enter. Select the title block, and then underneath where it says projects, go ahead and type in class 1 example 2. And you can go ahead and fill out the name and the scale. Hit the OK button. Remember how to find the scale? If you double click on one of the views, it's going to tell you what the scale is listed right along the top here. Just go ahead and copy that text or type in that text exactly the way it is into your title block. Hit the escape button twice to get out of that. Okay, so once you fill in your name, your scale, go ahead and save this and make sure that you upload it. One last thing I forgot to show you was that this dimension here has 2 decimal places behind it. So what I want you to do is select that dimension, do a right click, choose where it says properties, scroll all the way down to the bottom in your properties window, find where it says primary units, precision, select the drop down, and choose where it has the 2 decimal places. You can close the properties window by selecting that X and then select the escape button